You are now listening to the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, the Going North podcast. I'm your host, certified self-leadership trainer and author of the best-selling book, Stay the Course, Dom Brightman. And you're going to be getting some goodies today from the guest that's up next. And today on the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, known as the Going North podcast, we got another super special, awesome human for you today. Because today's guest in particular is a health innovator that has always had the innate ability to perceive the world much more than holistically than most. This wonderful guest right here, she's a sought-after speaker, facilitator, and author. International best-selling author, that is passionate about showing us who we truly are, and that is a perfect combination of mind, body, and soul, divinely designed to be free of dis-ease. You heard that right, folks, dis-ease. So let's give it up for the super special, awesome, the lovely and luminous Lisa Warner. How you doing today, Lisa?
Hey, Dom, thank you so much. That was quite the introduction. I love it. Thank you.
Yes indeed, yes indeed. That's right. That's usually one of the better parts of the show before we go down a bunch of rabbit holes.
Beautiful. Well, welcome to all the guests. Thank you all for listening today. We appreciate you joining us, and hopefully we'll give you some great information.
Oh yeah, it'll be great with 5 R's. It'll be great. Yes, indeed. Well, as you know, with all introductions, they're not allowed to be 58 days long, so mind filling in any cavities I missed about you, Lisa?
Well, I'm the author of The Simplicity of Self-Healing, which is a book that I wrote after I realized that I could simply allow my body to heal itself from cancer, that I didn't need to go the medical route. So even though at the time I was terrified because I didn't really know anybody else that had done that, I intuitively knew that our bodies are designed to heal themselves. And I also intuitively knew that my body was out of balance because I was out of balance. So instead of going the medical route, I went inward and I sought to rebalance myself. And when I started to rebalance myself, my cells started to rebalance themselves in accordance with me, bringing myself back into alignment. And if I can do that, everybody can do that, because that's the divine design.
The divine design indeed. That's what I'm talking about. So what led to this wonderful discovery? Like, was it something intuitive, or was it some outside influences that put you on your back to help you to really get really deep into yourself? Like, what happened?
Well, I was just struggling with life because I had always looked at life differently than most of the people around me. And I really couldn't figure out where it was that I fit into this crazy mixed up world. I was trying to fit myself into a bunch of boxes that I didn't belong in. So I was feeling quite out of sorts. I was feeling kind of worthless. I felt like nobody could understand me. I didn't understand the world. And it just rolled into this big ball of dis-ease. I had grown up as a healthy, fit athlete, and I had this body that just did anything that I asked of it. I grew up as a highly advanced figure skater, so I could jump through the air and spin like a top. I could dive down to the bottom of the lake and hold my breath for minutes at a time. Like, my body was awesome. But as I grew up and started trying to be an adult and trying to figure out how I was supposed to fit into this world that didn't really make any sense to me, I started really struggling. And the more I struggled, the more unfit my body became, until finally I ended up facing cancer. And I knew intuitively that going the chemo or radiation or pharmaceutical route simply was not going to give me the answers, because I knew that my body was struggling because I was struggling. So I knew that if I could bring myself back into balance, that my body would bring itself back into balance too. So that was where it all began.
Ah, that's what I'm talking about. It's my goodness. So an elite figure skater. So was that something in the family? Because it's a rare occasion where we have an actual had a past life as a figure skater. We only had like maybe one other person who was a figure skater on this podcast.
Well, I grew up in Lake Placid, New York, and Lake Placid, New York is a tiny little postage stamp village in the middle of the Adirondack Mountains in northern New York State. And this town of 2,500 people has hosted the Winter Olympics twice. So when I was growing up, we were in the midst of trying to get the Olympics for the second time. So pretty much everybody in my town was an athlete. Everybody either skied or skated or played hockey. And so I ended up as a figure skater. My mom had been in the local figure skating club when she was growing up. And so she said, oh, hey, why don't you give it a try? And first time I stepped on the ice, I knew. I just loved it right from the beginning. That's how I grew up as a figure skater.
Ah, sweet. So all the skating. So do you still love the ice every now and then? Now that you have the wonderful self healing going on.
Well, I don't skate anymore. The sport of figure skating has changed, but I am an official with the World Figure Sport Organization, which is an organization that is bringing the art of skating figures back into existence. Along the name figure skating came from the art of drawing figures on the ice. And figure eights were part of the foundation of the sport. But the sport of figure skating got rid of figures back 25 or 30 years ago, and the sport has been lacking ever since. So there has been a resurgence of figures by a wonderful Olympian who lives here in Lake Placid by the name of Karen Cortland Kelly. And so she has single-handedly brought figures back onto the world map. So I'm one of her officials, and together we go and we host local workshops, and we have a world competition, an international competition that we do every year, and it involves Dorothy Hamill is one of our beautiful representatives, and we've got many world and Olympic champions who are involved in this as well. So that's a real honor.
Woohoo! That's what I'm talking about. Dude, my goodness. And it makes so much sense. Like, oh yeah, figure skating. We're drawing these figures right here, these magical figures. And of course, they're trying to get everybody over six figures. You got to be a figure eight,
There you go. I love it. Right? If you're not making six figures, you're not helping enough people.
Oh, man. Well, the beautiful thing about helping a lot of people is that you're able to help yourself. So if I'm not mistaken, one of the things that really helped you to get to that state of self-healing was meditation, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Absolutely. It's the power of connecting inside. When we connect inside to that space of stillness, we connect to our soul. And we are souls here having a physical experience. So we're the infinite being that comes into a physical body to have a physical experience so that we can experience ourselves in physical form. So these bodies are the form that we take on. But when we come into these bodies, we forget. We start identifying as the body, and then the body has the mind attached, and the mind is like the little computer processor, and that's the part that gets programmed. We're told who we are and what we should do and when we should go to school and what we should learn and how we should learn it. And we're told all of these things about how we should be in the world. And for the most part, those things don't make any sense for us as infinite, sovereign, individual beings. We're taught that we need to be like everybody else. And we're supposed to do the right things that everybody else does. And It's simply not the way we're designed as infinite beings. We're here to experience ourselves, but we're taught that we have to be like everybody else and do what is expected of us from society. And right now we're seeing that that's no longer working for us as humans, that we are going through this great shift of consciousness. And we're seeing that society wants us to do all kinds of things that don't really fit for the majority of us. So it's time for us to all start taking our sovereignty back and start really tapping into who we truly are, because we're magnificent beings, and these bodies are spectacular. They are intelligently designed vehicles. They're designed to heal themselves, to regenerate themselves, to rejuvenate themselves. But as we as humanity have kind of fallen into density and forgotten who we are, we've not only have forgotten our own magnificence, we have forgotten the magnificence of these bodies. And these bodies are designed to last for hundreds of years. There are documented cases of people living for 200, 250 years or more. And if one person can do that, that means we all have the ability to do that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially going through the Old Testament Bible, it's like, man, see, like Adam, I think he lived to like 175, if I'm not mistaken, and Eve, she lived to like 125, and of course nowadays we got a lot more centurions now, more than ever, and of course making the government mad with the Social Security collection too, because it's like, hey, why are y'all living so long again? Like, stop it. Like, we're trying to take your money here. And humans are like, nah, fam, this is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to live here on the earth a long time. That's right, a long time.
Yeah, and happily and healthfully. We don't need to get old and have all of these diseases. It's not the design. We're not meant to be stuck with these diseases. Our bodies are designed to automatically heal themselves. When we bring ourselves back into balance, the cells come right back into balance as well.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So darn true indeed. So, with all of that wonderful goodness, like really just allowing the body to do its magic, is there anything else that's involved? Because I'm pretty sure, because meditation's freaking awesome, but is there any other self-awareness tips to help folks get started? Because, and a disclaimer, I know this ain't like no medical advice, but this is just for helping folks to feel a little better nowadays since we're still dealing with this darn pandemic that's still out there.
Well, yeah. You know, one of the things that is true is that the universe works in very specific ways. And the laws of the universe are unwavering and unchanging. And they are 100% consistent across the board. So, like most people have heard of the law of attraction. The law of attraction is in effect 24/7, 365. It never wavers, it never changes. And our bodies have biological laws of nature in the way that they work. And unfortunately, our medical system is not built upon the 5 biological laws. It's built on germ theory. And germ theory is a theory for a reason, because it's an idea that has never been proven. So, but the 5 biological laws have been proven. And the laws basically say that every single symptom that shows up in our bodies is biologically meaningful. It's there for a purpose. So, and that there's a cause for every symptom. So, and the cause is an emotional conflict. When we fall out of alignment and we start worrying or being in fear or doubt or guilt or shame or blame or anger, and we're in these states for extended periods of time, the body is responding to those emotional states. And it's responding with a biological response designed to help us through that crisis. And during each time we have some sort of a crisis, the body responds in a very specific way to each specific type of crisis that we have as humans. So whether that crisis is a death fright, for instance, if our spouse is worried, is facing some terminal illness, for example, that would be a death fright. If we have a worry in the nest, basically the nest would be our home environment. So anybody that we would nurture, and whether we feel we can nurture them or we can't nurture them, that would be a worry in the nest. Whether a self-devaluation, we self-devalue all the time. Like, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not fast enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not wealthy enough, whatever it is that we self-devalue. All of those different types of scenarios, the body has a specific type of response for each one of those different types of scenarios. So a worry in the nest can show up as breast cancer in a woman. A death fright will appear in the lungs. It could appear as lung cancer or emphysema. Territorial anger conflict could show up in I think it's in the pancreas. So we have to look and see what symptom is showing up in the body, and then backtrack and see what emotional conflict is associated with that symptom. Because if we resolve the emotional conflict, the symptom will also resolve. So the medical model looks at symptoms, but it doesn't look at the cause of the symptoms. My approach is to look at the cause of the symptoms. And when we alleviate the cause, then the symptom goes away.
I could definitely say that again. And you mentioned the 5 biological laws. So what would they be?
So there are multiple laws, and we could have a really long conversation about this. But basically, there's an ironclad rule of cancer that is, cancer is a biologically meaningful act from the body. That if the body is building up extra cells, it's building them up for a purpose. And if the body is removing cells, it's removing them on purpose. So we have to see why the body is doing that. So in every single instance, there is a clear cause for why the body is doing that. So the idea that the body is being attacked by cancer is actually not true. The body is responding to an emotional conflict. That's what's actually true. So one of the other biological laws, the 4th biological law, is the law about viruses. And the law is, and this has been proven beyond the shadow of a doubt, that if viruses exist, which there is still a lot of unclarity around what a virus actually is, but the microorganisms, the bacteria and viruses that are in our bodies are there serving a purpose. They're not there to attack our bodies. They show up at the site because they are actually what are helping the body to rebuild itself. So, when we think about having a cold or flu, we have the same types of physical symptoms. We have coughing and congestion and fever. And the doctors will go in and they'll say, oh, well, you have a viral infection. And well, those viral microorganisms, whatever they are, whether they're tuberculin bacteria, whatever they are, they're serving a purpose. So if you think of, I like to talk about healing, that the body, just like if you had an old house and you wanted to renovate the house, if there had been a whole bunch of wear and tear on the house and you wanted to renovate that, what would you do? You would hire a construction crew to go in and renovate the house. Well, if you didn't know anything at all about the process of renovation, you simply hired a crew and told them to, hey, have at it. This is what the final outcome is that I want. If you walked in on the construction site 3 or 4 days in, you would walk in and you would go, oh my gosh, they ripped my entire house apart. They're destroying my house. Well, this is what happens in our bodies when these bacteria and viruses, quote unquote, start renovating the body, because when we are in having an emotional conflict, there's wear and tear on our bodies. When we're struggling emotionally, there's wear and tear on the body. The body is responding, either building up cells or taking them away. When we resolve the conflict, the body then needs to rebuild itself. It needs to go back to homeostasis. So if the body has been building up extra cells, the body then no longer needs those extra cells. So it needs to get rid of those extra cells. So what does it do? It calls its built-in construction crew that are on call 24/7. And that construction crew is the viruses and bacteria and the microorganisms that live in the body. And they go in and they start removing those extra cells that the body no longer needs. And what does that look like? It looks like pain and fever and coughing and congestion. It could mucus and phlegm. Like, that's all parts of the healing process. As humans, we've gotten it backwards. We just assume that, ruh-roh, something's wrong with me. But actually, the body is in repair mode. It's actually healing itself. The construction process, if you think about reconstructing your kitchen, if you're doing a remodel, that process, it's dirty, it's noisy, there's a lot of banging and crashing and ripping and tearing. And the same thing happens to our biology when our body goes to rebuild itself. It's healing is not a pretty process. Healing is messy. But when we understand that the body is actually healing, we can look at the process from a completely different standpoint. If we don't understand that process, it's like walking into the kitchen going, oh my God, they've just ripped out the whole thing. They're destroying my house. If we look at the process as, oh no, something's wrong with my body, something's attacking my body and destroying my body, it's a very different platform than, oh my gosh, my body is rebuilding itself. So when we understand what's actually happening to our bodies, we can go through that process with so much more ease and grace than when we go to the doctor and go, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me. Help me, fix me, help me, fix me. When we understand what's actually happening to our bodies, we're empowered, and we can go to the doctor and they can help if we need them to help. But they're there to serve us, and we need to be in charge. Because if we don't understand our bodies and we're just saying, oh no, help me, we're at the mercy of other people. And even though those other people are very well intended, the entire medical model is set up for our failure. And And that's not a rip against the medical model at all. It is simply, we are divine beings. We are infinite beings here having a physical experience. And this entire physical experience is designed for our failure when we are looking at ourselves as limited humans. Because every one of those quote unquote failures is pushing us to go inside and reconnect to the truth of who we are. Because when we're operating at full capacity as the full being we are, we operate with ease and grace, and we are creators. And we can work with the laws of the universe to create beautiful, healthy, happy lives for ourselves. And if we're living something less than that, it's our signal that it's our time to go back within and reconnect to the truth of who we are as the being. And that's where the healing happens, is when we reconnect to our soul and we realign with the truth of who we are as beings. That's where the healing happens. It doesn't come from a pill. We can use a pill as a tool to help with healing, but it's not where the healing comes from. I hope that made sense. That was a long that was a long explanation.
Oh yeah, because as soon as you got to law number two about the viruses, like, oh, like forget the other three. I was gonna go straight deep into this one. Definitely gonna go like 5 miles deep into this one. But yeah, it definitely does make sense because you're right about the whole pill thing. It's like, yes, it can contain some of the substance or whatever that'll help you out, but it may not always be the solution because heck, even the side effects sometimes with these pills are worse than what you try to get rid of. It's like, well, I think I'm gonna put this off to the side, rely on my old body because I don't want to take this. It's like side effects may include dizziness, death, and like, wait, what? It's like, I can't.
Right? Thank you. It's like, yeah, I'd rather take my chances on my body.
Yeah, like so many times, like parents, colleagues, friends. Sometimes they always have that one experience where they are feeling bad, and then doctor prescribed the medicine, and then they were they were in the bed all night staring at the ceiling like they're about to float any moment, going crazy,
Mhm.
about to turn to a horror movie.
Right? Yeah. It's very true. These pills can have really seriously detrimental effects. One of the things, part of the five biological laws is that the body has a specific process that it needs to go through in order to complete the healing process. So the first part, we talked a little bit about, first there's an emotional shock. There's something that we have a hard time dealing with. We get the pink slip from the boss, like, hey, you're not coming back to work. Uh-oh, now what do I do? Whatever it is, that it doesn't have to be something really, horrific like that. It can be something like, I'm struggling with money. I get to the end of the month and there's always more month left than there is money at the end of the month. It's like, how do I get out of this cycle? Whatever the cycles are that we struggle with, our bodies are doing something during the time that we're in that conflict. And then once we resolve the conflict, the body has specific phases that it needs to go through to complete its healing process. Because, like I said earlier, when we are in a conflict, the body is responding to that conflict in a biologically meaningful way. But when we're struggling in that conflict, we don't realize that the body is building up extra cells in the lungs, for example, or building up extra cells in the small intestine, whatever it is, or that it's taking away cells in our bronchial tubes or in our nasal passages or in our intestines. Like we don't understand that the body is doing something. So then when we go into the healing, when we resolve our conflict, the body has to reverse whatever it was doing while we were struggling in that conflict. And then that's when the symptoms show up. So we have to realize that when those symptoms show up, it means that the body is, the majority of the time, it means that the body is in the process of healing itself. And in order for the body to actually complete the healing process, it needs to fully rebuild. It needs to be able to go through that symptom and come out the other side. But what happens when we don't understand this process, when the symptom shows up, we go to the doctor and we say, help me get rid of this symptom. So what the pills are doing, they're actually masking the symptom. And then the body can't move through the symptom to the other side. So this is how we end up in chronic conditions. We're not meant to have chronic conditions. But when the healing process gets interrupted, then we end up with a chronic condition because the healing process has never been allowed to go through to its full completion. So, but when we're allowed to go through to the full completion, the body actually, just like rebuilding the kitchen, the body actually comes out bigger and better and stronger than it did going in, because that's part of the 5 biological laws, is that when the body repairs itself, it repairs itself to an even greater extent. So for an example of that would be if you break your arm, when you set the arm and then allow the body to heal itself, that bone will actually be thicker than it was before it started, because the body repairs itself to an even greater degree. So that bone will be even thicker, so that the next time you bump your arm, you will have less chance of it breaking. So, I mean, this is a spectacularly designed biological organism that we've got. We just don't know how to operate it.
Oh yeah, definitely could say that again. Definitely could say that again, indeed. And it probably even, in addition to that, probably just stems to not only like maybe a lack of knowledge, but also just bad decision making.
Well, that actually is true, because we're coerced into decision making all the time. You know, look at all the decision making that's going on in the world right now due to coercion. You know, if you don't do this, if you don't make this decision and do this action right here, right now, then you're not going to be able to travel ever again, or you're not going to be able to have your job. So we end up making decisions that are not right for us out of pressure.
Yeah, that's right. It's like we're being held down by a sumo wrestler belly from time to time.
Absolutely. Yeah, the bully is stealing our lunch money. You know, it's been going on since grade school. Look at how that pattern, just the bully with the lunch money, you know, give me your milk money today or else. You know, that pattern plays out in myriad ways throughout society.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. A myriad of ways, indeed. It's like a rainbow, but like with 75,000 colors instead of just a regular 7 or 8.
Yeah, I mean, life is meant to be a rainbow of infinite colors and hues, but as humanity, and when we forget who we are, and we forget that we're creators, and we forget that that we are able to be ourselves, we start creating with all of the dark colors. We end up with a very dark canvas. And then we wonder, what's wrong with me? Why can't I get my life together? Why don't I feel well? What's wrong with my body? But it's because we're painting with everybody else's paints. We're painting the picture that everybody else wants us to paint, rather than the picture that we came here to paint. As the infinite beings, we each came here with beautiful gifts and talents. And the majority of us are out there working, for $10 an hour for somebody else, trying to make rent each month and doing things that we don't really truly enjoy. We're not truly passionate about our jobs because we have to make rent. So we forget the gifts and talents and the amazing abilities we each have when we're following our soul's path and we're living our true passion as the true being we are. And we fall into these states of dis-ease because we try to do what we think is expected of us. And we're living these lives, painting the canvas of our lives with other people's pictures.
Ah, well said indeed. So, since you have this wonderful canvas of life that is still being painted to this day by with all these wonderful colors, what do you believe are your colors that you're painting with your canvas, like with the activities and all the other good stuff, metaphorically speaking?
Well, to really be a true creator and paint the true canvas of our lives, we have to realize that we're painting with our energy on a daily basis. And if we're painting with fear or guilt or worry or shame or anger, we're going to get a very different canvas than if we're painting with joy and ease and enthusiasm and passion and excitement. So every day, I try to inspire people, my tribe, to find their joy, find their passion, find the things that excite them, empower themselves with knowledge. Because when we start to empower ourselves and we start to realize that, hey, I am the creator of my life, I'm the creator of my health. When I'm living my passion and my purpose, and when I'm being true to myself, my cells can then do what they automatically do, and that is to heal and rebalance themselves. So each day, I try to tap into my inner guidance. What would be expansive today? What would help people the most today? What would I feel really good about today? What would bring me excitement and enthusiasm? And I start to live my life through those questions. And the more I ask, how can I be of service to others? What would help people today? What can I share today that will help people? That really inspires me. And that brings me joy when I have clients say, oh my gosh, I feel so much better now. I feel like life is so much easier now. I get a real charge out of that. That lights me up inside because I know that what I've shared is really truly helping people. And if we can't live life with ease and grace and joy, what's the purpose? Like, we're not here to struggle through life. It's not about survival of the fittest. It's about how can I come here and thrive and really enjoy my life. I have a thing in my group. I go live in my Facebook group every Sunday with something I call Soulution Sunday, Soulution, Soulution Sunday, because the soul is the solution. And as creators, we create what we focus on. So with so many people being focused by the news on all the bad things, I put something out each week. where we focus on creating heaven on earth, because heaven is not a place, it's a state of being. And when we focus on ease and peace and joy and harmony and passion and excitement, and we start painting our canvas with those colors, we get a very different reality than the one that is painted through the media with the fear and the doubt and the all of the divisiveness.
Ah, yes indeed, yes indeed, yes indeed, yes indeed. Solution Sunday, folks. That's what I'm talking about. So that's right. That's right. The lovely Lisa got that wonderful group for folks to really tap into on Ice Cream Sundays, baby. That's right. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So definitely check that out like a library book. So since this is far from your first rodeo, is there a question that you wish you'd be asked more often when you're on the guest side of the game on these podcasts?
Oh, great question. I guess, you know, people, if people ask the questions of themselves or of me, what can I do to empower myself? What can I do to bring my body back into balance? And, you know, my answer is to remember who you truly are, because we are these infinite beings, we are powerful beyond measure. And the power is not power over something. The power is love. The power is harmony and peace and joy and alignment. And the power that we have is our own personal uniqueness. When we are able to be our unique selves without question, without apology, we can start living a very different life. And our bodies respond to that when we are living in alignment with our soul purpose, with our passions and gifts and talents. Then our bodies can truly thrive. And in order for us to do that, we just need some simple, basic shifts of perception. We've been programmed to believe certain things about our bodies that are not true at all. Our bodies are not being attacked by diseases. It's simply not what's happening. But when we're coming from that place of disempowerment, we always feel like a victim, because that's what disempowerment is. It means that we're not living from our true power. So we then always feel like a victim. But we're not victims, we're creators. And with just some simple shifts of perception, allowing ourselves to think differently, to look from a different angle, we open up an entirely different world that we get to live in. We get to create our own heaven on earth. And when we do that for ourselves and we empower ourselves in that way, we heal ourselves. And in healing ourselves, we start to heal the entirety of all of humanity. We heal ourselves, we heal our friends and families, and we heal our neighborhoods, our cities, our countries, and the world. And we heal the planet as well. This is how we as humanity can move into this new earth and leave the confines of the old matrix, that third dimensional matrix of lack and limitation and dis-ease behind, and start truly thriving as humanity on this beautiful planet.
Yes, indeed. You can definitely say that again, indeed. That's what I'm talking about. That's right. That magical self-awareness, getting within yourself, knowing who you are. And heck, even for those who aren't that far enough ahead, finding out who you are.
Absolutely. Find out what lights your passion, what lights your light, what what do you enjoy? Do the things that you truly enjoy.
That's right, with an I-N indeed. That's right, since it's one of those inner activities, one of those inner discoveries. That's right, it's all
Hmm.
inside.
Absolutely.
Yes, indeed. Well, we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive, and that is if you were to wake up tomorrow and you were 25 again, but this time in the current year of 2021 with all of your knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
Be yourself. Be yourself. Don't worry about what everybody else thinks. Don't listen to what you should do. Stop shoulding all over yourself. Allow yourself to be. Allow yourself to follow your own instincts, your own inner guidance, and really tap into what it is that you love so that you can truly be yourself.
Well, there you have it, folks. There you have it, folks. When you tell yourself, I should, don't do it. Don't do it. Just say, I shoulder. That's right. Let me stop.
Don't should all over yourself. Number one rule in life.
Should we? Let me stop.
To
Oh,
should or not to should? That is the question.
oh, man. Well, the thing is, well, then again, what the heck, I'll go for it. So, folks should go to the magical website, but who am I kidding? They must go to your magical website, and they must buy copies of your marvelous book, and they must check out your wonderful stuff. So, for those who need to do all those wonderful three musts, what's the best way for folks to do so?
Yeah. My book is called The Simplicity of Self-Healing. It's available on Amazon. And my website is connectingyoutoyou.com, spelled out in full, YOUTOYOU, connectingyoutoyou.com. And I have a YouTube channel, The Simplicity of Self-Healing with Lisa Warner. You can check out all of my Solution Sundays there. You can also join my Facebook group. It's called Soul Sourced Healing on Facebook. And people can always reach out to me via email, lisa@connectingyoutoyou.com. I'd love to hear from you.
Woohoo! That's what I'm talking about right there. So head over to Lisa's wonderful website, connectingyoutoyou.com. That's right, folks, connecting you to you. Where you wake up and you look in the mirror, you be like, hey, that's me. I'm connected. I'm connected like Wi-Fi indeed. And check out that magical book on self-healing indeed. Some good stuff in there. Some great stuff indeed. So any parting words before we close up shop, Lisa?
Oh, thank you so much for having me on today, Dom. It's been a real honor and a pleasure. And I hope that people got some inspiration out of that, and to know that your body is an amazing vehicle and it's designed to heal itself. It is designed to support you in thriving in this world. And we are here to thrive, not just survive. So please know that anything you desire, you can create, including a healthy, happy body.
Hey, 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 you super special, awesome human. Thanks a bunch for listening to this podcast episode. Hope you really enjoyed it. Be sure to subscribe to this show if you haven't already, because more greatness is coming your way. And if you're so inclined, be sure to share with at least 3 other people in your network so that way more folks can catch the fire that is on the Going North podcast. Keep winning at life and advance others to advance yourself.